Right now at noon, a Saline County couple charged in the death of a child. We have the details just into the THP 11 newsroom. Plus, President Joe Biden is warning American citizens living in Ukraine that they need to get out now. More on the growing tensions with Russia. Looking for some help keeping those fitness resolutions you made at the beginning of the year? Some of the tech to check out at 12:10. And a Little Rock business is baking up a sweet way to celebrate Black History Month. More on these cookies for a cause coming up in about 20 minutes. Hope you're having a great Friday. I'm Michael Aaron. Another nice warm day on tap, but the temps are about to drop. Meteorologist Nathan Scott is here with a look at those changes just in time for the weekend. Hey, Nathan.
Good Friday afternoon, Michael. Yes, it's a great way to end the work week with warm temperatures. Get outside and enjoy it. Open up the windows. Maybe have lunch outdoors, because look at these numbers right now. Into the mid to upper 60s, 70 in Pine Bluff, 72 in Camden. But notice the clouds building their way in here from the north. That is a sign that things will be changing. Also on the breezy side, we've got those winds from the southwest kicking in about 10 to as high as 20 miles per hour. That's going to help us warm up into the low 70s across most of central Arkansas, probably mid 70s down to the south. We'll stay dry out there today, but I mentioned that cold front. And that cold front means business. Highs today, low 70s. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, yeah, it's going to feel like the upper 20s to lower 30s. Saturday is going to be a much colder day for all of the natural state. I'll let you know how low the mercury will go and talk about next week, which has an active weather pattern shaping up.
Let's get to that breaking news we mentioned at the top of the show. State police have arrested a Saline County couple in connection to the death of one child and injuries to another. 24-year-old Haley Quantz and 23-year-old Roy Preston Ross, who you see right there, are charged with murder and battery. Quantz is the mother of both of the kids involved here. On Tuesday, Haskell police responded to a home on North Monroe Street. They found a 4-year-old boy hurt and unresponsive. He died at the hospital. On Wednesday, state police discovered a 10-month-old from that home also had serious injuries. That baby is now in DHS custody. Quantz and Ross are in the Saline County Jail. Governor Asa Hutchinson is backing a plan to add more prison space in Arkansas. This all comes as the state projects increased prison population over the next 10 years. In 2018, the Arkansas Department of Corrections had about 16,000 inmates. That number is expected to reach more than 19,000 by 2031. You see that trend line there, the blue part on your screen. This proposal is an effort to address that by adding almost 500 inmate beds to the North Central unit in Calico Rock. The specifics on cost are not ironed out, but Governor Hutchinson expects it'll run somewhere between $60 and $100 million.
The first responsibility of government is public safety. That's a big responsibility for our state, and it rides on my shoulders. And I look at our prison population. We need to address the issue of adequate space.
Governor Hutchinson says the prison system is already overloaded. Right now, about 2,200 state inmates are in county jails. Hutchinson says that number is too high and that it doesn't give the local court system flexibility to arrest people for misdemeanors. The governor will ask for legislative approval next week when lawmakers return to the state capitol for this year's fiscal session. The cost would be covered by the state's budget surplus, but must be approved by the legislature. Lawmakers will also vote on the governor's proposed budget that he laid out last month. We'll have more coverage of the session starting on Wake Up Central Monday morning and continuing throughout the day. New at noon, some at-home COVID-19 tests are being recalled. The Food and Drug Administration says the standard Q COVID-19 AG home test is being recalled because the tests were illegally imported. The tests were apparently only designed as a screening test and not for diagnosis purposes. Officials say if anyone used them and got a result from them, they should test again using a different brand. Turning to the fight against COVID in Arkansas, there is a sign of hope as cases continue to decline in the state. But this wave we're dealing with, it is still not over quite yet. Here are the latest numbers. About 1,800 new cases were reported on Thursday. Positivity rates are now in the low 20s to upper teens. Health officials want to see that positivity rate go down below 10%. Hospitals remain packed full of patients this afternoon. COVID patients are taking up about a third of the ICU beds in the state. Just 3% of those beds are free, and the numbers are certainly not good, but they are steadily improving. As cases continue to drop, school districts across the state are slowly lifting COVID-19 restrictions. Some have even stopped contact tracing after the governor made it optional for districts last week. The North Little Rock School District is one of the many that recently lifted some COVID-19 restrictions. It's allowing full capacity back at sporting events, allowing volunteers and mentors back into the buildings, and field trips can now return. You know, a lot of kids are excited about that. The school board and superintendent made the decision on these policies as cases in the district have come down dramatically.
We've constantly been trying to get back to normal, right? As much normal as possible. Kids back in routines, kids getting those field trips, those extracurricular really activities. That just makes for a well-rounded student.
As for some of the other large school districts in Arkansas, the Bryant School District ended its mask mandate, while PCSSD has stopped contact tracing. The U.S. continues to warn that a Russian invasion of Ukraine could be imminent. As Natalie Brand reports, it is warning U.S. citizens in the country that they'll not be rescued if war breaks out.
President Biden emphasized his warning to American citizens living in Ukraine. The time to get out is now.
We're dealing with one of the largest armies in the world. This is a very different situation, and things could go crazy quickly.
The president told NBC News' Lester Holt that he will not send U.S. troops into Ukraine to rescue Americans if Russia invades.
That's a world war. When Americans and Russians start shooting at one another, we're in a very different world than we've ever been in.
The White House says President Biden is hosting a conference call with world leaders to discuss Russia's continued buildup of military forces along Ukraine's border. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the State Department is drawing down personnel from the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine because of what he calls troubling signs of Russian escalation.
We're in a window when an invasion could begin at any time. And to be clear, that includes during the Olympics.
Outside the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv, residents of Ukraine were mixed about Russia's next move. This professor says he believes it's 50-50 whether an invasion will happen. As new Russian forces arrive near the border, diplomatic talks are continuing as well. But a key sticking point has been NATO's expansion east. Ukraine is not a member of NATO. Russia wants to keep it that way, but NATO has said closing membership is a non-starter, and it's beefing up its defenses in nearby member countries.
We are also assessing whether we should adjust our more longer-term presence in the eastern part of the alliance.
A U.S. Stryker squadron from Germany arrived in Romania Friday. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The U.S. Air Force announced Friday morning that it is deploying an F-16 squadron to Romania to enhance security of the NATO country. This is on top of the nearly 2,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne who arrived in Romania earlier this week. Apple plans to improve the safety of its AirTags after complaints about unwanted tracking and stalking. The company said the devices will undergo software updates this year to add more safeguards for users. Some improvements are expected to include privacy warnings during AirTag setup and alerting people sooner if an unknown AirTag is traveling with them. THV11 highlighted some of these concerns earlier this week. You can find our full report right now on THV11.com.